I'm an academic scientist. I trained in Cambridge and then went to Imperial College London and became a lecturer in UCL, University College London, rose through there to become professor and dean of the Institute of Child Health, and subsequently in 2003 moved to be master, which is now called Vice-Chancellor of Birkbeck University of London, and as such had a transition from being a scientist with a laboratory into somebody in academic management and somebody who had to worry about higher education policy. Well, I think there's probably two answers to that. One, in terms of the sector as a whole, the major challenge is that the fee for undergraduates is capped at £9,250. So despite the fact that we have 10% inflation in all our bills, including energy costs and so on, we can't raise the fees as any other business would do to meet increasing costs. And in terms of Birkbeck, we are obviously a provider of education to more mature people studying in the evening. There we have a challenge that the funding system doesn't really properly recognise people who are studying part-time, mature students. It's almost entirely focused on 18-year-olds studying full-time in university. I think we've seen negative effects, certainly of Brexit, in that a lot of students who would have come to study with us in other universities are not coming because they're faced with higher fees. Clearly, many people from Brexit, from EU countries who live in the UK are concerned about their future and whether they're going to be moved on by their company and so on. So they're not really signing up for degree courses. So certainly Brexit has had a negative effect on a lot of universities. Well, I think in terms of generally in attracting students who want to work and study, what we need is an equitable funding system which doesn't discriminate between an 18-year-old going to university full-time on a campus university and somebody of 40 who's studying part-time with a family and so on. And obviously the support should only be pro rata. If you're only studying part-time, you should only get pro rata to the full-time support. But we really need one system as opposed to a system that deals with full-time 3-year degree students and then as an afterthought sort of tags on part-time students and anybody who doesn't fit into that simple mold. Well, I think we have obviously bursary funds and we need more bursary funds. I think one of the things that's made a big impact on me in all the years in Birkbeck is how small amounts of money can make very big differences. So if you are a person who needs childcare and Granny has been providing the childcare, suddenly Granny goes into hospital, you are faced with a certain amount of cost, possibly only for a relatively short period until she comes out again and is fit. But that costs you, and so you have to have those sorts of grants to support people. In terms of non-financial things, I think we have to recognise that patterns of working have changed, that we can't expect individuals to pay to travel into London 4 evenings a week if they're only coming into the office a couple of days a week. And so we have to be much more flexible in terms of mixing together face-to-face provision, which I think is very important, especially for mature students, with online provision that they can watch whenever they like, and with what we call high flex, where students can watch online as the course is being delivered and interact as if they were in the room. So I think more money and more flexibility are probably the messages that we need to get over. Well, the government have pledged to introduce this lifelong learning entitlement, by which every individual has 4 years of entitlement to study at an advanced level. Very much to be welcomed. Also very much to be welcomed their position that this will be the funding system. So there won't be one funding system for 3-year degrees and one funding system for everybody else. So all very much to be welcomed. They need to move to implement it as soon as possible, and they need to implement it in a way that gives people choice. So it should not be government saying this only applies to cybersecurity and whatever. It should apply to all subjects. Individuals should be left to decide what they want a subject to do, and it should be blind to past qualifications. So we can't have a system, which we have at the moment, that if you do a 1-year certificate followed by a 3-year degree, that's fine. But if you do a 3-year degree followed by a 1-year certificate, you fall foul of the equivalent or lesser qualification rule, where your second qualification is equivalent or lower than your first, and you don't get a loan for that. We need something that says people need to be allowed to do what they want to do. Very often you might have a degree in one subject and you need to catch up in another subject, either to change career or to gain an extra expertise in your own career. We shouldn't be stopping that by not allowing that to be funded. I mean, we hear a lot about from government about the apprenticeship levy and about how many people should go and become apprentices through that levy rather than through a degree. And I think there is a great deal of sense to that in terms of valuing those sorts of careers. But it shouldn't be an apprenticeship levy with a lot of difficulties in terms of accessing it and lots of rules and regulations. It should be a skills levy, whereby the employer can say, I have to pay this levy, I want to use it to provide skills for my workforce that I think are suitable, not to be told by a regulatory body that you can do it under this umbrella, but not under that umbrella. So again, it's about employers having choice. And I think the Labour Party's position of changing the apprenticeship levy into a skills levy is very much to be welcomed. As I've already said, is the government's lifelong learning policy. So both to be welcomed. Well, I think the idea that you gain all your qualifications by the age of 21, 22, you get a bachelor's degree, perhaps you get a master's degree, and then you go and work in a firm for the next 40 years is a totally outmoded concept. There are jobs that are going to disappear because of automation or whatever. There are job opportunities that are going to appear because of new technology. So people need to be able to come along and say, I got my degree in this, that was 20 years ago, I need to now do something different to either broaden my qualifications or perhaps to change direction. Equally, there will be people who didn't do it at school, who have matured, got responsible jobs or become involved in trade union work or politics, who would very much benefit from having a degree who've never had one. And so again, that's something that you should be able to do as easily as possible as a mature student while you combine it with work, because you can't give up your work and study full time because you have family and other commitments, obviously. Well, I think what we'll see is further sort of difficulties around the capping of the fee. I can't see government raising the cap on the fee in the current situation. I hope we're going to see lifelong learning entitlement move forward. A bill was tabled at the beginning of February to do that, and that needs to move forward. Equally, I think the announcement that there's going to be a sort of Ministry of Science and Technology now is a sign that government is serious about science, which is very good. But I think government shouldn't forget that lots of other subjects are valuable as well, and we need progress across the board. But I think we have to recognise that the world has changed. As I've said before, the world is not about getting a job and staying in it for 40 years. Everything is changing, and our higher education system needs to adapt to that rather than be predicated on a system where fewer people needed a degree. And when they did need one, they needed it at the age of 21, and that was the degree for their life.